I do want her to see that she can do hard things. I think we live in this world right now where we want to run away from things that make us uncomfortable or things that are going to cause us to maybe choose other things over things that we want to do. And sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes, I have to decide not to watch that TV episode that I love because I got to go to the gym.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Weapon X Holsters. Quality handmade Kydex holsters made right here in Southern Utah. You can stop by the store, 1397 West Sunset Boulevard, number 115 in St. George, Utah. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Leg Podcast. We are in the vault again today. We have a local business owner, grew up local. I've known the family for a long time, one of my favorite families. This is episode 86. It's going to be a cool episode. So this is Kelsey Hunt. How's it going, Kelsey?
It's going great. I'm very happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's funny because we typically are scheduled out, and then we had a guest that we had to reschedule today. And just short story. So I was at the chiropractor who we've had on, Russ, and we were just kind of talking about the podcast, and he said, well, I've actually got someone that I think would be perfect for your podcast. And he started explaining you. And I was like, are you talking about Kelsey? And he was like, yeah, do you know her? And I was like, yeah, I've known the family forever. So I reached out and you were game. So you had about 6 hours notice. So I'm glad we could make it work.
Yeah, well, let's go for it. Like I said, I'm happy to be here, talk about things that we have going on at the bakery and in my personal life, doing my fitness that I love to do. So I'd love to share that with everyone. And I appreciate you inviting me in.
Yeah, I'm excited. So you guys, as a family, you guys own Nothing Bundt Cakes in town, franchise. You just told me that. I didn't know it was a franchise. So you do a lot of fitness competitions. Is that the way to word it?
Correct. Yes. Bodybuilding. So I'm in the amateur league of bodybuilding, working towards my pro card this year, actually. So a lot of people don't know what that is, but it would just allow me to be able to compete in the professional league. So we're working on that this year, but right now, we really are focused heavily on the bakery and the franchise. It's something that we've been able to do as a family that we absolutely love. So we're 3.5 years in and just looking forward to continuing to grow and reach out to the community. People are loving the cake, so it's been a really enjoyable journey.
Yeah, so she brought some of these in, and we can kind of talk about maybe your favorite ones, the most popular one. Oh, and you guys are right next to Cafe Rio?
Yes, so we are on the opposite end of Cafe Rio, kitty corner to PetSmart. Okay. So that, as we all know, that parking lot is a blessing and a curse. We get a lot of traffic in there, which has been fantastic, and it's accessible for people that are already going in there. We can get a lot of traffic in and out of there sometimes, but we feel very fortunate to be able to be by these local partners. So yeah,
it's a good spot. There's what, Dick's there, there's Old Navy, there's
Ulta, Chick-fil-A.
There. Yeah.
So it does bring a lot of traffic for us, and we appreciate that we can be central to the community right off the boulevard on River Road. So it's pretty accessible for most people.
Awesome. So we've got a couple here. It was kind of funny. She brought him in. Well, she beat me here, actually, to be honest. But when I saw him sitting there, I thought, oh man, I'm going to probably eat every one of those. So, we'll throw cameras on me real quick. So tell me what we've got here.
We have the red velvet and the Oreo cookies and cream. And let me tell you, so Oreo's cookie and cream is our featured flavor. So our featured flavors rotate about every 6 to 12 weeks, depending on their popularity. This is the first time we're having Oreo. So we were able to partner with Oreo, and anybody who's followed me for a long time or knows me at all on Instagram or anything, I am an Oreo fanatic. When I get off stage after a competition, the first thing I eat is Oreos. Every new flavor that comes out, I have to try it. I have a basket just of Oreos in my cupboard. I'm obsessed. So when I heard that we were doing this flavor, I was overjoyed. Jacked for sure. I love it. It is delicious. It's like you've dunked your Oreos in milk. The cake is so moist. Anybody that's had our cakes knows that we're known for having very moist cakes. That's what makes them different. But I'm telling you, the Oreo is next level. So anybody who hasn't tried it, we have it through the end of March. Get in there. Don't miss it because it is to die for.
Yeah, and this will come out this Saturday. So you guys need to get in, check this one out. You got the rest of the month.
Yes. Yep. You've got a couple weeks to get in there. We always have new feature flavors coming out, and they're always great, but this one's extra special.
All right. Well, let's do the elephant in the room. Let's get this out of the way. So you're a fitness, you compete in fitness and bodybuilding, and you own a bakery. So tell me how'd that come about?
Okay, I'm not going to lie. This is probably the most common question that I get.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And it's my favorite question because honestly, the answer to this is nobody loves or appreciates good quality desserts more than bodybuilders.
Okay.
Like you see us backstage after our shows and everybody's busting out their desserts and we don't get to eat them all the time.
Sure.
So when we do, we appreciate it that much more. The second question I always get, and it's usually more of a statement than a question, is like, obviously you don't eat it. Yeah. Inaccurate, you guys. I just had it on Tuesday. I eat it. When I'm competing, what we call prep, so the last couple months leading into a show is when we're preparing for the show and we get super strict on our diet and everything. So that's when I say no to it. Yeah. But it is the first thing after Oreos that I eat when I get off the stage. So, it's all about balance, and that's something that I've learned in the 5 years of competing. I eat it. People think that I don't. I do. And I love it. And bodybuilders love desserts. And so truly, it was like the perfect marrying.
So it worked out. It's the opposite of what everyone would think anyway.
Exactly. You would actually be surprised how many people in the fitness world or bodybuilding specifically actually own dessert companies.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe it's our like mental way of dealing with not eating it all the time. I don't know, but there's a lot.
You have to have mental toughness to be able to do that. But at the same time, just to compete in what you're doing takes a lot of mental toughness anyway.
It does. Yes, for sure.
So tell me how you got into Nothing Bundt Cakes, and then we're just going to take off from there. So
okay, I'd love to. So Nothing Bundt Cakes is a franchise that started in Las Vegas. I have an uncle that lives in Las Vegas, and I'm going to say probably about 12 years ago now, he brought the bundt cake to Thanksgiving. And my dad always likes to tell a story where he was like, I don't understand why you're bringing bundt cake and not pie to our Thanksgiving dinner, but okay, go ahead. We fell in love with it. So we had the white chocolate raspberry and lemon, which are still 2 of the top 4 sellers. And we just loved the product. A couple years later, my dad was like, man, I would just love to open this in St. George. People would love it so much. We don't have anything like this here. And so he reached out to the franchise and said, hey, I want to open one of these. And they said, sorry, St. George is not big enough. It doesn't meet the demographic requirement. Again, mind you, this was probably about 7 years ago now.
Okay.
And he was like, okay, we kind of let it go. At the time for myself, a couple years down the road, I had graduated with my master's degree from the U, living in LA, working at a hospital, and wanting to come back to Utah, starting to kind of say, can we open our own business? And so we talked to my parents to see if that's something they'd be interested in. And we had started kind of looking at different franchise options. And in the meantime, he got an unsolicited email from Nothing Bundt Cakes that said, hey, we're looking at the area again. Are you still interested? And long story short, we did it. We jumped in and we said, let's go. We're ready for this. We want to do it. There was a lot of barriers along the way. You name it, starting a business, financial, finding the area, labor, right? There's just one thing after another that makes opening a new business a challenge. And there were times when we thought we weren't going to quite make the cut, but we did. And so now here we are. We love it. It, like I said, 3.5 years since we've been open, and it's been a complete joy. People love the product. And so when they come in, everybody likes to tell you the first time that they had their cake. Everybody knows when that was, at a party, or, I had a sample in your store, or you were at the Dickens Festival the first year you opened. And that's really rewarding. It's great to have people come in and just rave about the product and how much they love it.
Yeah, I remember when it opened, I thought, I'd never even heard of this. I don't even know what it is. And I'm like, they just make cakes or what? And then I think my brother Adam had some, and I was like, oh, dude, so where'd you get it? What's this all about? And he was telling me about it. And then he said, well, the Claytons own it. And so
Right.
what's cool about, especially, I mean, we're not as much a small town anymore as we used to be when we grew up, but like the family name that you guys take along with it too, I think that brings a lot with it. Like people trust your guys' family. A lot of people know your family. So it's a cool thing to be able to, like I said, to me, not that I had anything against it. I just didn't know anything about it. And once that name got put on it, I was in trust. I was like, okay, let's go get some.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I do think getting out in the community has been a big part of it. You know, when we get to go be a part of these community events and meet people that we didn't know before or reunite with people that we do know in the community, it definitely makes a difference. It makes people want to try the product. Like you said, build a trust, and it's really fun. It's really fun to be able to have something behind you that you can help with charity drives, and all those big weddings and corporate events that, you know, you are friends with people in the community, and to be able to support them in that has been a lot of fun. Coming from a family of 6 siblings, we did have a lot of opportunities to build relationships through sports and school and all those activities. So definitely grateful for that network that we have. And it has been fun in that regard for sure.
What do you think you do the most of? Is it just the retail, like the bakery store? Do you do more weddings? Do you do more corporate stuff?
You know, we do a lot of everything.
Yeah.
We are definitely building more of our corporate business. You know, they're starting to find out what we can do for employee birthdays or holiday gifting or large corporate events. We tend to be able to handle large orders at the dime of a hat that a lot of bakeries can't, just due to our production. And corporations love that.
Yeah.
But when wedding season hits, you bet we do a lot of weddings. We kind of provide an option of a beautiful cake that maybe isn't as expensive as a custom cake. And so those brides who are maybe on a more restricted budget, they can have a delicious and beautiful cake under $100. And for a lot of people, that like blows their mind.
Yeah.
So when wedding season hits, we do a lot of that. But you better believe we get I'm here for my lunch break and I just need a treat, or coming after school with the kids to get a buntlet, one of our individual sizes. You know, people love that too. So we get plenty of that. And now we're on DoorDash and Uber Eats. And so we're seeing a lot of those like last minute treats. Bring it to my house because I need it now and it's easy. So
right. Well, I like to talk about kind of the struggle too, because people look at business owners and people that are successful in quotations. However, you know, that's all relative to who you're asking. But what are some of the bumps and bruises that you guys went through? You'd mentioned there was some. So what's some of the big ones that you guys went through? And also, that's part of it, right? That's supposed to be part of it. So kind of walk me through some of that.
Yeah, so getting a business started, I mean, the biggest thing is always cash, right?
Sure.
Okay, so having the financial stability to be able to get things up and going. Anybody who's been through a small business loan process, like it's tedious, it's hard. There's a lot of information, especially your first one. Luckily, I had experience with putting business plans together from my schooling, but you know, it was months and months of coming back with more information that the bank wanted, and then making sure that we met all the financial requirements because, to be honest, my parents had to sell their 6,000-foot custom home to be able to meet the financial obligations, and getting that house sold was a major obstacle. It was a time when the market was coming down. It's not right now, where it would have been probably a whole lot better. But that was a challenge that we had to overcome and be patient for that to happen, to be able to meet the financial obligations. So that was one. Another one that was just kind of came out of the blue that we did not anticipate is what's called a grease trap. So for restaurants that produce grease, and come to find out anybody that is a food place has to have a grease trap. The grease trap that was there in the location that we purchased was no longer adequate based on the city regulation.
Okay.
So the city regulation had changed. We needed a bigger grease trap. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're this cake business. It's not like we're deep frying food. Like, we literally do not produce this much grease. But St. George regulation, they just have a base size. So that ended up eating up basically all of our contingency funds, and then put our construction back several weeks because they had a huge hole. It's twice the size of this table, just the hole to get the grease trap in. And that was something that, like, in the plans, when the plans are created, it went through the city, like, none of that was ever brought up. So that was definitely another obstacle. But opening back, more cash that we had to come up with. And I think then we opened a couple months before COVID.
Yeah.
So we could go, a whole podcast into the COVID, but that was something that we faced our first year, was shutting our doors and not being able to have people in the bakery. And then obviously all of the employee call outs from people getting sick and things. So everybody experienced that. Everybody went through that obstacle and had to come out on the other side. But that was, in year one.
That's rough.
Yeah. And then we had a flood. We had a flood that, when we had that big rainstorm and the hole that went through on the Ramada Inn above us, that water came into our bakery.
Oh, jeez.
So needless to say, that was year one too. So that was, we have some fun pictures being there at 2 a.m. scooping out the water. But retrospectively, like, we had a great first year. And so to know that we were able to push through all of those hardships and come out still on the other side, to operate another year, not everybody can say that.
Yeah.
Not everybody came out of COVID. And we feel very fortunate that we did.
Yeah, especially in the food industry. It was
right.
rough.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you guys do to kind of pivot during COVID to keep revenue coming? I mean, what did you guys
The
end up
biggest
doing?
thing was switching to free delivery. We did offer free delivery in that time. We weren't doing curbside before, so obviously we automatically switched to curbside because people couldn't come in.
Yeah. And free delivery, were like you guys just driving them around?
Yeah. I mean, it was before pre-baby, so that's lucky. So I was able to do a lot of those myself. And those were kind of the two things that really helped. I think people learned to look online too.
Yeah.
So our online sales obviously went way up during that time, which we were a brand new company. So the good thing about that was people were going to our website and seeing what we offered, because people still didn't know everything that we could do. They knew we had cake. They didn't know we could do balloons and candles and decorate their cakes. And so them seeing that visually on the website was the silver lining for us, because it was the quickest way to get that message out. So we did tons of deliveries, curbside, and tried to really hit it hard with social media and things to just get that word out that we were still open. And like I said, we came out on the other side, so it worked.
Well, that's a lot of, especially going through COVID with a couple businesses myself. I'm always interested, because it seems like everyone that came out of it that would have been highly affected, like my safe store, we were not affected at all. Even with, like, my business is driven by fear, right? So like
True.
when you're scared of the government or politics or a fire or whatever, that's when people come in and buy a safe.
Right.
So when there was that fear going, we were like all-time highs. But it seems like, especially the food industry, when people would come in, I've had these conversations and I'm always curious of like, well, so what did you have to change? Because and not crapping on anyone that had to close doors, but like, how many of those people were just like, that's it,
I can't change.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? Close doors, and everyone that I've talked to, especially the food industry, had to pivot somehow, and they had to get creative. They had to do that. And I think it's interesting because there's a divide between the people that probably weren't going to make it anyway, and then the people that have made it. And so I think it's cool. I like to bring that up. People come in and talk about running, especially like a brick and mortar business,
right,
during COVID.
I mean, you had to. And one of the other things, as a new bakery, we were going initially to a lot of community events so that people could taste the cake, see the brand, get to know it. And then that stopped, right? Like, no more community events.
Yeah.
We lost several large wedding orders, that were already on the books and things. And And so as soon as the transition happened to where we could actually let people in our bakery, at least, we started going out to businesses and inviting them to our bakery. So because we couldn't go take food out because that wasn't acceptable at the time for safety reasons, we invited them in to come get free cake on us. And so like, for example, we celebrated National Dog Day, and everybody that went to PetSmart that day got to come get a free buntlet. And so those were some additional pivots that we made to help still bring business in when we couldn't necessarily be taking it out because those things weren't happening.
Yeah, I think do you guys do parade homes?
We have a few times, yes.
Because I've had one there too, and I can't remember if it was you or your mom. I saw one of your family members there, and I was like, oh, this is the Bundt Cakes. And I was telling my wife about it, and it just hit me just barely when you were talking about going out and doing stuff. And that's what I love, is like that getting creative part, So when did fitness become a big part of your life? When did you start getting into that? Why did you get into that? I still ask myself, I'm like, I don't know why anybody would want to go work out. As you can tell by my body type, I'm more likely to eat one of these than go work out. So,
well, the great thing is you can do both, right? No, that's a great question, because honestly, it was not anything that I went looking for at all. I mean, I played volleyball in high school, so I was active, but I hated going to the gym. I hated working out. I hated that feeling of like burning my chest and sweating, and like, I never enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But I was working in LA at the time. My husband was working in Utah and LA and traveling back and forth. I had been living there full time. And I was just working. It was after my master's program. I had nothing else to do there. And so I would be at the office or working on my laptop at home constantly. And we lived next to the mall, and there was a Gold's Gym attached to it. And my husband's like, hey, like, let's get a gym membership. We need something. Like, we need to do something together because we're both just working because we have nothing else going on. So we did. You get the free trial with a trainer when you sign up, because they want you to sign up for training sessions. So I did that. The guy convinced me. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's get a new goal. I graduated. I'm a very kind of goal-oriented person. Like, if I'm not driving towards something, I'm like, what am I doing? So I was like, yeah, new goal. Let's sign up for a training program. Let's see what we can do. He was very much into like powerlifting. And so he taught me a lot about powerlifting. I had knee surgery a year or two before, and so had a lot of muscle atrophy on that leg and was still in a lot of like rehab. And he had worked with a physical therapist. So long story short, like, he helped rehab my knee while teaching me how to powerlift and do bodybuilding. A couple months in, he's like, you should do a show. And I'm like, okay, what's that?
What does that entail?
I have no idea what that is. Honestly and truly, I literally knew nothing about the sport. I'd heard of Mr. Olympia before, but like women bodybuilding, I didn't even know it was a thing. And so I committed to something that I always tell people, had I known what I was getting into, I would have never done it. So ignorance was truly bliss, because I committed to it. And I'm like, if I commit to something, I don't care if it kills me, I'm going to see it through. So I did it. And it was the hardest thing I have ever done. The diet, the training. I mean, we're talking 4 hours in the gym a day. Eating relatively nothing, getting into the final weeks of your show. And I remember the night before the show and thinking, this may be the day I die. I am so tired. I'm so beat up. I got on that stage. I bombed. My routine, I took last place. I walked off that stage and I fell in love with the sport that day. I was like, I am doing this again. I don't care that I got last place. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show these judges that I can be better. And I ended up doing a couple shows over the next few years, moved from LA to Utah for a job opportunity. That's when we started looking into franchising the bakery. When we opened the bakery, I ended up taking about 2 years off. I was still training, because I will tell you, training, being in the gym became my outlet. Dealing with the things that was my time to be in my head, accomplish something difficult every day, and just have that me time. I think when it comes to fitness and activity, it's finding what you love. So I hated working out before because I was doing things that I did not enjoy. But when it came to lifting, I loved it. I looked forward to going to the gym every day. And like I said, it became my outlet. And then when COVID hit, hallelujah, my parents had a basement gym. Like it didn't have everything, but enough that I could go and still stay on top of that and do what I needed to do to get rid of all the stress of opening a new business. And had a baby, post-baby last year. I got back into it. I did 3 shows last year. Like I said, I'm going towards my pro card this year. So I've qualified to compete at a national level, which if I place adequately there, then like I said, I will get my pro card and be able to compete at a professional league. That's
crazy. So break this down a little further for me. So you talked diet, workout, it's 6-7 days a week for what is it? So kind of walk me through all of that. So everybody
kind of has their own split. So when you are competing, like I said, there's a stage called prep, and that's really everyone's prep time is different. It depends on how much body fat you're coming in with it at the time, how much weight you need to lose before your show, a lot of different factors. It's definitely something that you do with a coach. Some people do self-train going into a show. You definitely have to have experience and a lot of like self-motivation, knowledge, and control to be able to do that. So I have a coach, and typically you're looking at anywhere from 12 to 24 weeks where you're actually in prep. And that's going to consist of some people do meal plans and some people do it based on macro counting. I prefer macros because I like to choose what I'm going to eat every day and not have to eat the same things all the time. But then also your workout training, it again depends, but usually once you're in prep, you're at a 6-day split. So you're in the gym lifting the various areas that you specifically need to develop. So for me, like shoulders are my demise. Like I can grow the other muscle areas a lot easier. Shoulders are really hard for me, which for my division is really important. So I spend a lot of days doing shoulder work and upper body. But usually you're looking at a 6-day split, and then cardio anywhere from 20 minutes a day to 2 hours.
Wow.
I've been at a point where I was doing 2 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's intense, man.
Yeah. And then your diet, well, usually you'll start up a little bit higher in your calorie count and things, because the goal is to obtain a certain amount of muscle mass and then keep that while also leaning down. But the more you lean down, the more cardio you're doing, the less food you're eating, the more that muscle is deteriorating.
Right.
So it's a balance of like, how do I maintain that as close as I can to the show while still getting lean enough, having a low enough body fat percentage to, look good on stage. So usually your calories start to kind of tick away the closer and closer you get to your show. So I tell everybody right now, I'm 1 more week before I officially enter prep for this year. So next Saturday, a week from Saturday, I will be 12 weeks out from my first show this year. So that's when I'm like in prep.
Yeah.
So I'm in this like pre-prep stage where I'm like, I'm ready to see all the muscle definition, but I don't want to say goodbye to my cake and food yet. So, but it really kind of depends on your muscle structure. Some people, like I said, some people are doing hours and hours of cardio last year. Luckily, after 4 or 5 years of building muscle and being in this sport, I was able to do like 45 minutes a day rather than 2 hours.
Wow. So walk me through how a show works. So how does it, I don't know anything about this. So walk me through how the whole thing goes.
I would love to. Because again, I went into this with no knowledge. And I think this sport, there's a lot of people that don't know anything about it. So there's multiple divisions. Okay. So within like a woman's bodybuilding, you have, which is the one that I do, bikini. It's the most feminine muscle structure. Okay, so they're really looking for overall presentation in terms of like hair, makeup, suit color, and then your overall presentation on stage. They do not, and I get this question a lot, care how much you lift, how much you weigh. They are truly looking at your physique. So a lot of people are like, well, how much can you bench press? Well, really, I'm not like,
that's not my
I'm
gig.
not putting up like 2 plates. Like that's not what I'm doing. But then there is like figure, which is a little bit bigger, and wellness, which is more focused on like having bigger legs, smaller shoulders. So there's multiple divisions. There's Miss Olympia, which is the women bodybuilders, which means putting on as much mass as you can. And then the same thing on the male side. So like I said, most people have heard of like Mr. Olympia.
Right.
That's the biggest, most muscle that you can put on while being the most shredded that you can be. But then there's like, right, exactly. Yeah. Well, yes, like he started bodybuilding. Now his division would be called classic physique.
Sure.
So they've developed a new division, which is more like, Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you put him up against like the bodybuilders now for Mr. Olympia, like he would be small.
Yeah.
They're huge now. So anyways, multiple divisions. Day of a show, the night before you're going to do your check-ins. Certain divisions you do have to be weighed. So like if you're going to compete in men's 212, like you have to be under 212 pounds. Okay. My division does not have weight, but it does have height. So they put you into height classes. So you're competing against people that are similar in height to you. Then day of the show, we wake up early, hair, makeup, all the things. You're checking in with your coach, sending them pictures so that they can tell you what you're going to eat that day. A lot of people get to do what's called a carb up. So like I said, your calories have been ticking down and you're like eating nothing. Well, now you got to feed those muscles because they are flat. Like you flex and they're like, there's nothing there. Like there's no food in there. And so, it's usually the night before, like you start carb loading, like you're eating tons and tons of carbs to be able to blow those muscles up while not, getting rid of your lean shreds.
Science.
Yeah. And this is the one sport, like if you're in it to win every way, like, or every show, like get out. Like you'll win one show and lose the next, like, because it is so precise and it all depends on who shows up for the show. But then once the day of the show gets going, you just wait backstage. And once your class gets up, you go up, you do your routine. They call you out in what's called call outs. If you make first call outs, that means that you're likely going to be in the top 5. And then each call out subsequently after that, like your placing goes down.
Okay.
Then after prejudging is...
So hold on. So your routine is like your poses?
Yes.
Like
So you do multiple poses. And again, that depends on what division you're in.
Okay.
So bikini, we do a front pose and a back pose is what you're being evaluated on. But they're also watching how you transition into those. So you're going to start in the front and then you have to get to the back. And in the front... again, and you're wearing 5-inch heels, and they're watching to see, like, how does your body look in each stage of that? But ultimately, you're being judged on, do you have a perfect X factor, meaning your shoulders and your glutes meet, and a tiny, tiny waist from the front and from the back. So you do that routine, and then you go wait on the side of the stage while they call people out. And again, where your call outs come is typically an indication of where you're going to place. Then you go back to wait again until the evening of finals and you wait for them to call your class up and you go out, you do your routine one more time for finals. They do final judging and then you get awarded.
So is that the same day?
Usually.
Okay.
So 99% of the time it's same day. Sometimes it can be a 2-day show where you prejudge one day and final judge the next day.
And so on the final... So what do you do on the final? You go through your routine again?
You do.
So if that's another day, that's crazy.
That means no cheating on your diet that night. That is like, it's the sport of hurry up and wait, honestly. Like there's a picture of me and my parents at my second show, all on the back row, just like asleep. Because we're waiting for like my turn. And I think that show, like I didn't go on till 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a long day. And you're just waiting for that moment you step off so you can have your bundt cake and your Oreos. But it's still fun. And yeah, if it's a 2-day show, then you're not having any bundt cake and Oreos for a while.
So how many have you done? How many shows have you done?
I'm on 8.
Wow.
Yes.
All Utah?
I've done Utah, Vegas, California, and in California, LA, Anaheim area, and Tahoe. So, I guess, yeah, in Tahoe.
So what does it entail to level up? Like you were saying, you're trying to do your pro card. So where do you start? And then are you like, so is there a division under you?
You do region level shows.
Okay.
And within the show, they do have like different classes of, there's an open division and you have to win the open division to be able to then qualify for a national level show. It's the top 2 people in the open division. There are other divisions or classes, not divisions, other classes that are for people who are doing like their first show.
Okay.
And so you can still win those and go home with like hardware, like a medal, but it's not going to qualify for you for anything.
Got you.
So if you do the national level shows that do qualify you for, the region level shows that will qualify you for nationals. If you place in the top 2, then you can go to the national show. You go to the national show, now you're competing against hundreds of people, and you have to get a top 2 placing again to win your pro card.
Okay.
So I've qualified for nationals 5 times out of the 8 shows that I've done. I've done 1 national show, did not place. That was before we opened the bakery, so that was several years ago. So this will be my first national show.
Post-business, post-baby.
Yeah, and I'm definitely coming with a much stronger, bigger package. So hopefully that pays to my benefit.
When is that?
June 3rd, I'm doing a show, and then to prepare for it, like, get my heels on the stage and make sure I'm like not falling over again. And then my first national show will be June 17th.
That's awesome. So how many times do they do like the region open to where you can qualify? I mean, is this like,
so they're all over, they're all over the nation. I mean, they have them almost every weekend.
Okay. So it's not like if you don't place now, it's 7 months out.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Now that is more with the national show. Like there's about 7 total chances throughout the year to go for your pro card, but region shows, once about March hits, they're almost every weekend.
And you can travel anywhere. You don't have to be from the region or anything.
Correct.
You can go anywhere.
Yep. You pay to play, but you can go.
That's crazy. I mean, you've seen pictures of it. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of the sport. I've heard of the different things, but I didn't know how it all broke down.
Right.
And so, yeah, and then the different classes too, like classed by height. I guess it makes sense, but I just
once
never
you get to the pro level, though, height goes away.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for bikini pros, like it doesn't matter how tall you are, you're all competing against each other.
So do shorter or taller people typically win, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter, but I will say that like tall people tend to have a really great presence on stage. Because they're going to be bigger just overall.
Yeah.
But they also, generally speaking, when you're looking at a tall person, they tend to be like really lean and have a hard time putting on like outer size. So that's probably the struggle that they face. A lot of times they look almost too lean and slender on stage. But if you get a tall person that like also has broad shoulders and like round glutes, like they just have a really great presence. Like the judges' eyes are going to go to that person because they're bigger, like they're easier to see. So I think that there's an advantage there. There tends, in bikini specifically, there tends to be a lot more competitors in the shorter range. So getting to nationals as like a shorter competitor is harder because there's so many competitors.
Makes sense.
I tend to be in the happy medium where like I'm not on the tallest end, but I'm also taller than a lot. So my classes tend to be a little bit smaller, which is beneficial for placing, but also means like the show's not as long.
Yeah. Well, and if you get kind of pushed through your division and then there is no divisions, and then it's like, well, I've done really good. Now I'm at nationals. And
yeah.
So where is nationals? I was going to ask you that.
My first one's in Tennessee.
Okay.
And then my next opportunity will be New Jersey and then Vegas. And if none of that pans out, we're looking at like Pittsburgh.
Okay. Is that all this year?
Yep.
Wow. So how does your husband support you in all this stuff?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Ben
is... you guys have a crazy life already.
We do. But oh my gosh, I tell him all the time. And this is something about bodybuilding. Like it is not an individual sport. I'm telling you, you have to have a support system. I literally could not do this without him. He has been an amazing, amazing support. He goes to every show. As boring as they are, you sit there for hours on end. I'm on stage for a total of 30 seconds and he's there all day. Watching, supporting. He carries my bags for me. I get my tan done and you can't like touch it because it will get smudged. And then if the lighting's off on stage, then your whole package is messed up.
Sure.
So he's carrying my bags everywhere so I don't have to. Helping me apply my tan. And of course, taking care of our baby for the countless hours I have to be in the gym. He is cooking all of my food. Like he is such a support. And I wish that there was an award for those support systems because I'm telling you, they earn it more than we do. And A lot of people, wonder like if he's uncomfortable with me being in a bikini on stage. And at first, I think even my family, it was kind of like, I don't know, like you're on stage in front of all these people kind of dancing around in a bikini. But once you see what somebody goes through, the mental toughness, the physical toughness that you have to endure for this sport, you learn really what it's about. And kind of those preconceived notions go away. And when he's watching me on stage, it's not in a provocative manner. It is truly seeing all of the work that has been put in for now years to be able to get to where I am. And it's something that he's just learned to appreciate. And he's the ultimate support. And he deserves the award more than I do.
Does he go around telling people that you guys won the bikini award?
He doesn't, because he's just too humble. Like, he doesn't speak anything about like what he's accomplished. I tend to be much more extroverted. And so like, I'm happy to tell people about things, but he'll brag about me, but he would never say anything about himself.
So we have this joke, Amanda and I have this, like no one else knows about it. It's just her and I that like we got our degree, but I don't have one. She does, right? And so I'm like, he goes around saying, "Yeah, we won at the competition."
He should. I try and tell him, but
he should. Because he's doing all that while holding down a job, and not only a job, but a traveling job.
Yes.
And so that's impressive. That's power couple. That's hard to do. And then, like we were talking before we jumped on, I've got my son's just a few months older than your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, our lives are crazy. And then to think about you guys running a business, training, all of this, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Amanda's got a full-time plus job. She's on call. She's doing all that. Even just like today is actually nice because we're doing the podcast in the middle of the day, where typically I do it at night. And so when I do it at night, it's like, I got to make sure that she's, getting off in time to pick up Will from daycare. And then she's got him through dinner and getting him to bed and doing all that. It's just so she can try to get to bed at a decent hour to do the same thing tomorrow. But so I get it. Being a parent's hard, doing all that stuff's hard, but this is what I'm getting at. I love that your daughters can be able to grow up and see that you guys are still accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. And I think it's important for the kids to be able to see that you're not cutting back on things you want to do for them, right?
Yeah.
Like you're making all of it work, but you're also accomplishing things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, it is so important for me for her to see that mom doesn't quit and that she is still a priority for us and that we will figure it out. And we're a team. Me and her dad are in a team in caring for her. I love that he gets to have a strong presence in her life, and it's not just me. And we work together to make sure that even when we're both working, that she is still a priority. And I do want her to see that she can do hard things. I think we live in this world right now where we want to run away from things that make us uncomfortable or things that are going to cause us to maybe choose other things over things that we want to do. And sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes, I have to decide not to watch that TV episode that I love because I got to go to the gym, or we have to give up going to a restaurant and we eat at home because, we want to have a healthy lifestyle. Those are decisions that are sometimes hard, but that we make. But then at the same time, as a mom, we've committed to taking her at least one outing every week where we take her out of the house and go do something. We've been to the wildlife museum or something as simple as the park. But making sure that she's still a priority and she knows that. But there's a way to balance life to where we are doing hard things because we have to do hard things.
Yeah.
And we can still have fun. And as long as you have someone that's going to be there to help support you and care for you, you can do it. And so I have a necklace with her birthday on it, and I wish I would have worn it today. But there's been a couple times where I've really struggled at the gym, and I will wear it specifically because it reminds me that I'm showing her that mom can do something hard. That I got up earlier today because dad has to catch a morning flight to go get my workout in so that one of us could be there for her.
Yeah. Think about being able to sit there and actually not only tell her that talk 10 years down the road, right? 15 years down the road. And you're thinking, not only be able to tell her that you can do hard things, but you're sitting there saying, dude, I'm doing them too. Or I did them when I was going through some hard stuff. I did it when I was opening a brand new business and then having a kid. And I think it's super important for parents to not make the kid like their excuse to not do something, right? And then you're going to sit back and say, no, you can be whatever you want. And it's like, well, then why didn't you? Yeah. Right. And I think about that a lot with William. I mean, he gives me a lot of gas, right? He gives me a lot of energy to go get things done. And I think about being able not only to tell him examples of things I'd gone through and struggles that I'd went through and to show him I'm not perfect, right? Mm-hmm. But to be able to have that result of, I went through all of this. I did it while, me and your mom were going through this, while the business was going through that, while you were being born, while we were having a 2-year-old and whatever, right? And so I love that you not only, you're aware of that, I guess is the best way to put it. So I like that a lot. How'd you guys meet? How'd you and your husband meet?
Funny story, actually. We went to the same middle school. So I did the whole Dixie Pineview, graduated from Desert Hills. So I got to know some people, but we went to the same middle school, Dixie. He graduated from Dixie. Like I said, I graduated from Desert Hills. We did not know each other. But when I was in Desert Hills, I was on Facebook, talking to some guy from Dixie that I had known at the time when I was going there, and me being completely naive and not even thinking, I left my cell phone number on his wall. So instead of messaging him, for people that are still familiar with Facebook, I posted it on his wall.
Right.
So anybody that was friends with him could see my phone number. I get this random text message and it's like, you really shouldn't post your phone number on people's walls. Any random creep could text you. And I'm like you?
Yeah.
Who is this
and
guy?
You are?
Yeah. And he ended up bringing me, and he'll probably kill me for this, but he ended up bringing me roses to work the first time we had ever actually met in person. And come to find out, our dads actually worked in the same clinic. So my dad was the administrator of an ophthalmology practice, and his dad was an optometrist that worked there. And so when my mom found out who it was, she was like, Dr. Hunt's son, no. So yeah, we started dating, we kind of did the whole high school, breakup, makeup thing. And by the time we graduated, we were dating. And my mom always says, where the heck did you find him? Oh yeah, the internet, because his dry sense of humor just sometimes just makes you shake your head. But yeah, we've been very, very happy. He would, even in high school, I would say I knew he was the one. I just did. I remember telling my girlfriends from the volleyball team, we were having a sleepover at my house, and I'm like, I'm going to marry this guy. This was as a senior in high school, and they were just like, okay, whatever.
Show them.
When he went on his mission, my parents said, it's him or you. If you go somewhere else or you date someone or marry someone else, he's ours. So you can either stay with the family with him or you're gone. So anyways, yeah.
So when he was on his mission, did you go up to Salt Lake to do college?
No, that I did my undergrad at Dixie.
Okay.
So I was working, living at home, all of that. And then when he got home, we moved up there.
Awesome.
Yeah. We lived in St. George, married for about 6 months, and then moved to Salt Lake.
Went to Salt Lake. And then what took you to LA? A job?
A job. I actually got an administrative fellowship at, it's called City of Hope. It's a cancer center outside of Pasadena, for those who are familiar. And then my fellowship turned into a full-time job. So I was over strategic healthcare IT. So I knew nothing about computers, that I was really good at project management. And they were rolling out a lot of new technologies. One of them for international business consultations. So we actually partnered with a hospital in Japan.
Wow.
To do blood cancer consultations. And I was the one that oversaw that technology implementation. And then they also rolled out a new electronic health record system. So that was when all electronic health records were getting implemented across the nation. And I oversaw all the hardware implementation. So all the computers, all the $2 million data safety warehouse. So that was I knew nothing about IT, but I knew healthcare and I knew project management. So it worked out.
So last thing I kind of want to go through is, how did your life change having a kid? My life changed a lot. I had all these things started running through my head when I started saying that. But so being a mom, working, you were doing the bakery already.
Mm-hmm.
What changed? What did you have to tweak?
Okay. Well, 10 years married, right? I was not sure that being a mom was ever going to be in the cards for me. Like I said, I'm just very career driven.
Like didn't want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it just wasn't something that I wanted to give up my career for. And I was like, I couldn't imagine being home and not working and going towards these goals. And I was so afraid that I was going to be unhappy. Like just terrified that I was going to have this like moment of regret and be like, I'm stuck with this for at least 18 years. Yeah. And
you're preaching to the choir, by the way.
Yeah.
The same way.
I mean, obviously with you only having a 2-year-old, I mean, we were like the ones to hold out. Like all of our friends have 4 or 5 kids, right?
Exactly.
And, you know, there was definitely some messages that got sent that it was the right thing for me to do at the time. We had opened the bakery and I was in a position where I was just like, I don't know. How am I going to do this? I'm at the bakery 24/7 right now as a new business. My husband's still traveling for work. Like, how am I going to do this? But I felt strongly that it was something that I was supposed to do. And I ended up having a miscarriage that first time. And I will tell you that bodybuilding saved me in that moment. And the reason why is because I had a coach at the time still that was, you know, helping me keep my fitness up while I was pregnant. And it crushed me. And I had already been going through so much emotional stress from the business and things that I didn't know how to deal with any of it. And I was gaining a lot of weight and because I couldn't deal with the emotions that I was experiencing. And my coach, her name's Corinne, and I had known her for a long time. And she said, Kelsey, I want you to check in with me every single night. We're going to focus one day at a time. We're going to help you mentally, emotional, hit your goals one day at a time, and we're going to get through this together. And so I did for several months post that losing my baby. She was a rock for me. You know, of course, my family and my husband, but she truly pulled me out of that and allowed me to get my body to a healthier state so that when I did get pregnant with Demi this time around, I was able to maintain that. And I learned such a valuable lesson. Like I said, that first time I got pregnant, I didn't want it. I truly didn't. It was like these are my goals, and how am I going to tweak my life to be able to do this? And the moment I lost that baby, I knew I wanted it. I knew that being a mom was going to be hard. I knew that it wasn't maybe what my personality, people would see me as being a mom, but I wanted it. And getting my body back healthy and being able to focus on bodybuilding to help me get back to a place where I could carry that baby it was a miracle in my life. And I didn't, getting into bodybuilding, that never crossed my mind ever that it would do that for me, but it did. And now here we are, and it's still something I'm passionate about. It's something that has strengthened me as a mom. I know how to give my daughter proper nutrition, things I didn't know before. And I feel so empowered to have that knowledge. Yes, she still gets her cake and her mac and cheese and all the things, but making sure she's getting adequate protein and all the nutrients and minerals and vitamins that she needs. I didn't know those things before. And so I've been so empowered to be able to be a mom in that regard. And now it's just a daily thing. Me and my husband, we talk about our schedules the night before. We figure out how we're going to make it work. And then I have a fantastic mom and sister. In fact, they're the ones that made it so I could be here today. Like I said, my husband is out of town for work, but my sister, who had a baby 2 weeks after me, so they are good cousin friends. We do a lot of trade-off with the babysitting. So there's a lot of running kids around. My mom, when she's not at the bakery, is a huge help to both of us. If I need to go into the bakery, we're switching off. Someone else is taking the kids, and then I'm going in. My sister's our baker, so my mom babysits a lot when she has to go into the bakery. So having 3 of us that can kind of rotate around has been a saving grace. And then, just praying, praying a lot, praying that, we'll have the support to know what we need to do to make it work each and every day. And some days are hectic and don't go smoothly. And some days it's like, oh, well, this was a good day. Like everything just worked out the way it was supposed to. But I work from home a lot. Fortunately, I can do all of our business operations from home. We have an awesome staff who we've been able to trust to not have to be there all the time. And that is worldly helpful. Some great managers and assistant managers that will come in at a dime of a hat if we have, sick kids or things that we can't make it in. So it's just pulling together all of that huge support system that makes it possible. If I didn't have the staff, my family, my sister, my mom, my husband, like it wouldn't work. But at the end of the day, when it comes to family, you do whatever it takes.
How many employees do you guys have over there?
About 26 at any given time.
Okay.
Yeah. Couple full-time, a handful of full-time, and then a lot of part-time.
Okay.
So I love that because, we get a lot of high school students and college students, some people who it's their very first job. And so being able to teach the basics of like even counting cash back and coaching them on how to have a job and what that means and how that all works, it's been fun for me.
Well, it's like we were talking before we jumped on. Or maybe we talked about it on here. I could be wrong, but I'm not a systems guy. Like I'm a figure it out guy. And I think I've hindered a couple people that have worked for me because because it's been their first job and that's not what they're experiencing, right?
Yeah.
They're experiencing like, I don't really care what you do as long as everything gets done. If you have 2 hours after, dude, TikTok it up. I don't care. Like I just need these things to get done. Yeah. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, this isn't a typical job. So like, if you move on to somewhere else,
when you go to Bundt Cakes,
don't be like, well, my last guy, because this isn't normal. But it's something that it's a goal for me to work on through the business this year is to just write up even just simple procedures and what I expect. And when I started the safe store and I started bringing employees in, so I'd ran it about a year by myself, and then I started bringing just young kids in, and I had goals, and we had all this big spreadsheet of all these goals and bonuses and all these things that they could hit, and they did good at it. I tracked it. Everything went good for a long time. And then when they went back to school, and it was just back to me every day, I quit doing it. And I was like, man, I almost had like this little thing going where I had, a little momentum off of that. And then I even quit doing it. So the other day, one of the kids is still working for me. And I just said, dude, did this ever help you? And he's like, yeah. I mean, he just kind of gave me something to work towards. And I don't need that.
Right.
Like I'm just going to come in and hammer it out every day. So like, I don't need that little goal. And so that's something we're working on right now is kind of building that goal sheet back up. But it's just kind of funny when I think about the structure that you guys have being a franchise and having you there and everything that's going to be structured out from, hour by hour, open to close, And I'm like, yeah, we just turn the open sign on and we make it work.
Yeah. And every business has to figure out their own method. And I think nowadays, like there really isn't one prescribed method. My husband always jokes that like the most exciting thing that I find most exciting is hearing how businesses are doing their operations. Cause like even when we talked about COVID, like businesses get creative and like figuring out, like I watched a show about how they do a cruise ship. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, it's amazing. And every business can figure out their own way. And there's not one way to do things, and finding the right employees for your culture is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, so I've talked about him a handful of times on here. He's senior now at Snow Canyon, and he helped. I mean, I don't know if I'd have the store without the couple kids that have helped me out there, because I just mentally don't know if I could have carried it with everything else I'm doing. But because that's like my home base, that's where I'm at most days is the store. But I run 4 other businesses every day, and I have employees that are hired out to take care of those. But I think about Abe, and I'm like, his personality like fits mine perfect. So when we're at the store together, he can get stuff done. Yeah. And what's nice is I know if I ask him to do something, it gets done. And that's all I really care about. I'm like, I don't need anything else. Like maybe mop the floors every now and then, I don't need all these crazy things. I don't ask for a lot. But I know that if I ask him, it gets it done. And now that he's starting to kind of transition out of school mid this year, I'm like, dude, what's the plan? What are we doing? And we kind of put up this thing between the two of us where he's going to stay on with me, and he wants to get into real estate investing. And I've started doing that just recently.
Nice.
And so I'm like, well, dude, I can show you everything I'm learning. Maybe we go in on a house or two together. Like I kind of show you all of this. And so now he's like, I'm sticking around, dude. Let's do it.
Awesome. When you find those treasures, like you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to give them a reason to stay and show them how valuable they are. And I think that's awesome. Like it's great. It's great for him to have that mentor and that trajectory, at such a young age. And then it's great for you to know that you have someone you can trust.
Yeah. And even being able, so we do safes, right? Safes, vault doors. We're doing deliveries maybe 4 days out of the week. In the mornings, we deliver safes. And I didn't think I would ever let anyone take my truck and trailer and tools and go deliver a safe, right? Especially when you're like taking a safe through $1 million home and you can't scratch a wall or the floor or anything, right? And I was like, I guess I'm just going to be a delivery guy forever because I'll never trust anyone to do this. And maybe the last 3 months, I've started to let him go do some. And I'm like, man, this is so nice.
So
I don't have to go do all that all the time and destroy myself because I'm trying to push around this 1,200-pound safe,
Yeah, let the younger guys do that.
Exactly. Well, he's like, dude, I think it's going to end up killing me one day. And I'm like, well, we need to replace you then sooner or later.
We got to start grooming someone else, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of our plan is when he gets done with school, I'm going to start teaching him everything to remove me from the store. And like, I'll still be there a lot, but I won't have to be there. And then once he gets to that point to where I'm going to be removed from the store, we'll bring someone else in. And then he can start training them, showing them. And then it just starts, reloading from there. But
that's our goal too. We want to keep bringing people in. It is a great opportunity to be able to be in the community and offer those positions to people and groom them and train them. My goal right now, I'm doing my certification to become a personal trainer because I love that.
That's awesome.
And so I'm hoping by summer I can start bringing on clients. I've been working with family members and things, getting my feet wet, and I'm loving it. And so being able to, have other people that are helping to build up the bakery and people that we can trust has been such a blessing because now we can focus on these other goals.
Yeah. And I think I never thought about it this way, but it should be a goal, or at least for me, I believe this, it should be a goal to remove yourself from the business at some point. Like you're supposed to retire yourself.
Right.
And we just had Trevor Calley on, one of the Real Business Owner podcast guys, and he had said that. And I was like, man, I've never thought about it like that. Like it'd be cool to not have to show up every single day and do 10, 12 hours. But I never thought about it like retiring myself, replace me from the business. So I don't know. It's weird things to think about.
Yeah.
What's the future with the business? What do you guys, is it doing other franchises? Is it just hanging on? Or
you know what? We're always looking for just other opportunities in general. Like I said, it's a family-owned business. So all of my siblings have a little bit of ownership. We got together earlier this year and started talking about other opportunities. Potentially a second bakery down the road once the city's ready for it and it's sustained for it. We have to be careful that we're in a position where we're not cannibalizing what we already have. But this place is growing so fast. We know that. We see the construction as it continues to spread out. Accessibility gets harder. So it's definitely in the back of our minds.
Well, and you're right. You guys are in a perfect spot. I mean, there's not really a whole lot more central than you guys are.
Yeah. I mean, when we saw that spot, it was like we just knew.
Yeah.
It was right.
Yeah. What's your goals? What are some goals you have coming up? Obviously, your competitions. What else?
Competitions. And then I'm really, my personal training business. I love it. I'm working on acquiring some gym equipment now that I'm not sure if I'm going to put it in like a personal home gym or if I'm going to go a little bit bigger than that. But by the summer, my goal is to be able to be taking online clients for that. So I can share the knowledge that I've gained. Initially, I did not want to do that because I'm like, this is my hobby. I don't want it to turn to a job. But as I started doing it with family, my multiple family members came and said, hey, just like help me out. I'm like, I don't know. And I finally jumped in and did it. I'm loving it. And I think sharing that knowledge is so helpful. And so that's really kind of my focus right now. And then, really winning that pro card. I think that would just be, number one, a great thing to be able to demonstrate that I do have the knowledge, as I grow my business.
Right.
But also just a goal that initially when I started competing, I laughed at it. Like, yeah, right. I'm getting on stage just for like this one thing, bucket list item.
Yeah.
I turned into being obsessed with it. So, to be able to look back and know that I accomplished that will be will be awesome. So those are kind of the things I'm focusing on. And then just always my baby.
That's awesome.
Giving her what she needs.
What's last question? I've wanted to start asking people this, but what's success to you? What do you think success is?
Oh gosh, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said, how many accolades do I have on the wall? Truly. But at the end of the day, when I think about like my own funeral, which I know it's kind of like creepy to think of, but like honestly, I want people to go up there and say that I was aware of people around me, that I saw where I could help, and that I didn't allow all of these things that keep me so busy to get in the way of stopping to help the lady cross the street. Truly, that is what I want to hear at my funeral, is that like I noticed the needs of people around me and I acted upon that. And so the beauty is business, financial freedom, working towards that are things that help enable that. Mm-hmm. And so, all these things that I'm getting involved in, that I'm doing with the support of my family and that we're doing as a family, the end goal is to be able to then reach out and share that in the community. And so having a business where we can do donations and things for events and community drives and things, it's been such a blessing. Like, how great is that we can donate things that are helping to raise money for people in our community. And, we never thought about that when we started the business, but oh my goodness, like what a blessing that is. And so success for me is people knowing that I helped people.
Love it. I think that's a great way to end it. Anything else?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. This was last minute, but I had a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad.
And thanks for having me.
Okay. All right, guys, that's episode 86, Kelsey Hunt. How can people get in touch with you or follow you? Just your Instagram?
My Instagram is Kelsey L. Hunt 11. My bakery email, kelsey.hunt@nothingbundtcakes.com. It is plural. And then, I'm at the bakery a lot. If you want to stop by and see me there, or my staff can get you in contact with me. But I do a lot on Instagram, so Kelsey L. Hunt 11 is a great way.
Yeah, it's probably the easiest way to follow her and check up on her. Let's see how these competitions go in the future.
Baby. My post consists of baby, fitness, and cake. And people don't know how those things marry, but now you do.
Love it. All right, guys, that's episode 86, Kelsey Hunt. Go follow her. Keep track of the bakery. Go try some cakes. They're awesome. I'm glad that she brought some for me. I was actually hoping that was going to happen. So thanks for staying with us for the last hour. Appreciate you guys. Love you. Comment, like, post, all that fun stuff. And we'll get and interact with you guys. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.